Let's get ahead of the UFC matchmakers by setting up every single main card fighter with their next opponent in this video. We have a new middleweight champion of the world from South Africa, Dricus du Plessis. The options are plentiful for another division that seemed to have a wealth of new talent at the top, which honestly, just a couple months ago, seemed like it was Izzy than everyone else, and there weren't that many contenders. The fight that makes the most sense for Dricus du Plessis is pretty obvious in my opinion, Israel Adesanya, seeing they already had an in-cage altercation after a title defense, and there's no loss of bad blood, and Dricus du Plessis called him out at the end of his UFC 297 fight.
Get into the cage tonight, but Israel Adesanya, get your back in the UFC so we can settle the score.
That seems obvious to me, but huge elephant in the room, Israel Adesanya's activity and whether he wants to get back in the octagon already. In my opinion, if that is a major question, I think the UFC's second option would be Khamzat Chimaev, and they could fill him in easily on the Saudi Arabia card that has been postponed and is now being looked at for June. Honestly, with Khamzat's biggest win, in my opinion, being over a former 170-pound champion in a fight that I felt like Khamzat should have dominated, but Kamaru Usman had his moments later on in the fight kind of showing a deficiency in Chimaev's gas tank, and Chimaev really having no top middleweight fight wins. I would see that a Sean Strickland rematch, honestly, in my opinion, is more warranted, especially after such a close fight where some are considering it a robbery. It's nowhere near a robbery in my opinion, but a very close fight that could have gone either way. It being an amazing fight, and there being so much fanfare behind Sean Strickland right now, I feel like a rematch with Sean is number 2 for me. So if we look at the Sean Strickland side of things and where do we go from there, if I have Adesanya at 1 and we can book that fight for mid-year, then we look at Sean Strickland versus Khamzat Chimaev as a co-main event on the Saudi Arabia card, and then maybe get an Islam Makhachev title defense. It just makes a lot of sense that they do that, and Khamzat versus Sean would have a lot of hype going in, and we can see if Khamzat Chimaev deserves to be in the title picture, and if he beats Sean Strickland in dominant fashion, or even just beat Sean Strickland in a close fight, you can elevate Khamzat Chimaev to the title shot. So that seems like the easy 1-2 pick for me for the main event of UFC 297. The co-main event might be one of the easiest fights to set up. Raquel Pennington defeated Mayra Bueno Silva to capture the bantamweight title. Raquel Pennington made it pretty clear who her next opponent will most likely be. Juliana Pena, the logical decision, a former bantamweight champion, last person to defeat Amanda Nunes before her retirement. There's a history of beef between Pennington and Pena dating back to 2013. It seems like bantamweight gold being up on the line in that fight would be a very, very obvious next move. As the number 2 option from Mayra Bueno Silva, where does she go? The scheduled fights that are lining up in the bantamweight division on the women's side of things are few and far between, with the flyweight division on the women's side really being the premier division in the next couple months. But we could probably see Bueno Silva, due to the rankings, matching up with Caitlin Vieira or Irene Aldana in her next fight. Aldana is not scheduled for an opponent anytime soon. I would lean to the Irene Aldana fight personally. Aldana, who will come in with a height and reach advantage, and Bueno Silva coming in with a little bit more of an impressive record. Both Irene Aldana and Mayra Bueno Silva both suffered losses in their title opportunities. It would be a great contender fight to cement who should be higher on the bantamweight women's rankings, and if somebody put in an impressive enough performance, they might get themselves back in the title picture. I think it serves both of them to get that opportunity. Neil Magny's win on UFC 297 was as unexpected as it was shocking. Now for his next opponent, I know this might be a little bit unfair to Neil Magny, who just came off a huge underdog victory, but at this stage in his career, I don't think the UFC are going to put him on another run to the title. So his status now is gatekeeper, who's going to make some money fighting up-and-comers, and I think there's no better opponent than Michael Morales. The Colombian is only 24 years old. His 16-0 record already features 11 knockout wins. He's put on wonderful performances in his last 2 fights against Max Griffin and Jake Matthews. I think he's earned a shot at the top 15, and there's no better man to test his skills than Neil Magny. On the other side of the result, Mike Malott, he's going to have to look to bounce back to earn another shot at the top 15, and I think there's no better opponent in this case scenario than one of the opponents that Michael Morales beat, and that being Max Payne Griffin. I think these two would put on a spectacular fight. I think that it would add to the highlight reel if both guys win or lose. And I think that Mike Malott, now at 10-2, needs to start making an impressive run of wins together. And I think there's no better place to look than Max Griffin to put on an exciting fight. And I do this whether Max Griffin win or lose against Jeremiah Uriah Wells. Sunil Magny, I would put against Michael Morales, and Mike Malott, I would put against Max Griffin. Chris Curtis defeated Marc-Andre Barriault on UFC 297, and I'm not going to lie to you, when it comes to the middleweight division, this is the toughest place to find an opponent for Chris Curtis. A lot of the top 20 are already set up with opponents in the near future, so either a late step in for Chris Curtis might be an option towards the top of the division, or I think maybe the best case scenario for him is to line up with Ikram Aliskerov. It's no doubt that Chris Curtis is going to have to start to put a win streak together to get another shot at the title. He's coming off of a loss to Kelvin Gastelum. He's coming off a loss to Jack Hermanson in 2022, and I don't think Joaquin Buckley and Barriault are going to be enough to get him in that top 10 discussion. But if he was to defeat an Ikram Aliskerov, for example, I think that this guy could be in for big money fights near the top of the division very, very soon. On the other hand of things, Marc-Andre Barriault, another tough guy to put against an opponent. He's going to have to take an up-and-coming fighter on, probably on a prelim of a pay-per-view or maybe a main card fight night. I think maybe Andre Muniz might be a good matchup for him. Andre Muniz coming off a decision win in his most recent fight, but he also has suffered 2 losses prior to that. Muniz was one of these guys coming up with a huge win streak, and I think Barriault would be a great test for Muniz. Muniz's grappling versus Barriault's toughness and striking. Line up Muniz versus Barriault, and I'd probably do Chris Curtis versus Ikram Aliskerov. Movsar Evloev defeated Arnold Allen in the first fight on the main card. It's tough to say that this guy deserves anything but a title shot against the winner of Volkanovski and Topuria. He is now 8-0 in the UFCs, 18-0 altogether. I know he doesn't have a lot of knockouts and submissions. He has never landed a stoppage victory in his 8 UFC wins, but he's defeated Diego Lopez, Dan Ige, Arnold Allen, Dawodu. This guy has defeated some of the top talent in the featherweight division. He just knocked Arnold Allen off one of the top win streaks in the featherweight division, pushing Arnold Allen multiple times. I don't see Evloev accepting anything other than a title shot at this point, unless it's a big money co-main event on a pay-per-view. And for his opponent, Arnold Allen, coming off of the loss, he's going to struggle to maybe find an opponent. He's probably going to have to fight a little bit down the pyramid now. I think one of the best fights for Arnold Allen in this case is probably Josh Emmett. Emmett was calling for a title shot. I don't think it was very much earned, coming off of 2 losses prior to his win against Bryce Mitchell in what was a knockout of the year contender for 2023. But I think Emmett versus Allen would really cement one of those two again near the top of the title picture. Arnold Allen is going to have to stifle the heavy one-punch power of Josh Emmett, and Emmett's going to have to find the chin of a very, very technical striker, one of the best strikers in the featherweight division. Again, Arnold Allen was on an 11-fight win streak and put up a great fight against Evloev. Even in that 3rd round, I could see these two main eventing a fight night easily and having big money there. But that's how I would book all the main card winners and losers from UFC 297. Let me know if you guys have any differing opinions. Do you think that I missed out on any obvious opponent choices? And make sure you guys subscribe to Combat Sports Central for more content just like this. But thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.